welcome to the Advent Calendar House, the podcast that accidentally replaced its microphone with a bottle of ketchup and now it can only be heard by vegetarians. Today's Christmas special comes with an extra thin layer of spookiness and about 6 or 7 extra Santas, so let's sort that out by getting lost in our confusing network of chimney flues as we journey back to 1990 for a merrier-than-usual episode of Count Duckula. This is a Christmas Quacker.
In the heart of Transylvania, in the Vampire Hall of Fame, yeah, there's not a vampire as any other.
I am Vampire Hunter trying to make a stealthy entrance in a giant noisy Zeppelin with my initials on the side of it, Mike Westfall. And joining me is an unexpected space monster about to take over half this episode. It's Adam from Merry Britsmas. Hello, Adam.
Hey, Mike, how you doing? I've been called that many, many times.
Have you now?
More times than you think, yeah. Some sort of space. I'm a teacher, so lots of kids call me Monster, Space Monster,
Sure.
You know, as many times as they can.
As they do. Thank you for being here. This is a show I remember watching a lot as a kid, and I remembered this Christmas episode, but it turns out I only remembered a very small amount of it.
Yeah, I definitely watched the show quite a bit as a kid. I think we had like a VHS or something of it, or DVD or something. I think I maybe even later than that, because I remember watching it with my brother, like on watching every episode kind of back to back.
Oh wow!
And
Okay.
exactly the same though. That I remember the Christmas bits, and there are bits of it I'm like, I don't really remember. Maybe my brain just skipped past the sort of non-Christmas bits at the time.
Yeah, we dreamt it, but... But before we get wrapped up in the trimmings of this episode, I'd like to take a brief detour into the history of Count Duckula. Created by Cosgrove Hall Productions, a name that's going to come up a few more times because a lot of the voice actors in this worked with Cosgrove Hall regularly. But Count Duckula began his life as a villain in another Cosgrove Hall cartoon, Danger Mouse. Did you also watch Danger Mouse?
I did. I didn't watch it at first. I think my dad was a big Danger Mouse fan, weirdly. I think he was too old for it, but he loved Danger Mouse because he was a big fan of David Jason. And so sort of watched that kind of as an adult, my dad, but thought it was the funniest thing. And so sort of got me to watch it. Again, I'm sure we had it on VHS, something like I read quite a lot of tapes of like old cartoons, some recorded off the telly,
Okay.
and some that we'd been actually legitimately purchased. And I remember watching that on tape, definitely, and really enjoying Danger Mouse. But again, I think I watched it probably after Count, or maybe about the same time. Maybe it was my dad going, "Oh, you like Count Duckula? Here is, what it came from," kind of thing, giving me the backstory to it after. Because I'm pretty sure I watched it after I'd watched Count Duckula. So then watching him on that show was like, oh, yeah, quite a different character, a little bit different, yeah. But still interesting to see the start of that. And again, I didn't know it was a spin-off at first when I was watching it. I just thought, just a great show about a vampire duck. Perfect.
Yeah.
And then watching that was like, oh, it's a spin-off show. Okay. Yeah. That explains some things.
Okay. It does stand well on its own feet, but I do remember watching Danger Mouse first. Nickelodeon had brought it over to the States, and it was a huge hit here in the early 80s. And so Nickelodeon approached Cosgrove Hall about co-producing another new series. And the way that I read the story was Nickelodeon president Jerry Laybourne was in Brian Cosgrove's office, saw a picture of Count Duckula, and she said, "That's the one I want." I've heard some argue that makes Count Duckula unofficially the first Nicktoon, but I'm not going to get into I'm not getting into those semantics here. I think that's more of an honorary thing.
No. That could be controversial. Yeah, that could be controversial. I'm quite surprised that Danger Mouse was so big over in the US. I feel it's so very British in its style and humor and take.
It is, but a lot of Nickelodeon's in the early days, almost all of their programming was imported from somewhere else. A lot of it was Canadian, and a lot of it came from overseas, from all over the place, really. So that was just normal.
Yeah, they just taking the best of stuff from elsewhere, I suppose, and introducing it to US audience.
Mm-hmm. So this Count Duckula episode, A Christmas Quacker, was part of Count Duckula's 3rd season. It premiered on the morning of Boxing Day, December 26th, 1990 on ITV. Could not find an air date here on Nickelodeon, but it doesn't look like it was the same date.
No, probably not. ITV, there's one of our major channels. That's what I watched it on when I was little, was ITV. And ITV had sort of a kids factor called CITV, which was children's ITV. That was kind of all their kids programming.
Okay.
So that would have been as part of the block of CITV cartoons and kids animated stuff that they would have had, and usually in the morning or after school, during the school time. So I'm not sure what time it would have been on. Probably quite early, I assume.
I have a time. It says 9:00 in the morning because I forget the name of the website, but there's this website that has an archive of just Christmas Eve, Christmas Day, Boxing Day programming.
Yeah.
On the various British TV stations. It's really fascinating to go back, but it's a very niche website that is just for people like us who care about this sort of thing.
Exactly.
Yeah. When
we need that information, it's there. That's what the internet's for. What time was Count Duckula on?
Boxing Day in 1990. Now, were you able to watch this episode this time on YouTube?
I watched it via Daily Motion is where I watched it on.
Okay.
So a different streaming platform I found it because, the one on YouTube, I think there's one on YouTube that's labeled Christmas Quacker, but it's not Christmas Quacker. If people go looking for it.
There is an official Count Duckula YouTube channel with this episode, and I have watched it there in the past, but when I went to watch it this time, I found that the whole channel has been blocked in the United States.
Oh, I see. I didn't find that one, no.
Which happens. And I don't have a VPN service to kind of get around that. No. So then I searched for it on the Internet Archive, and I found the whole series on there, but it sounds like the same issue that everything was mislabeled.
Yeah.
But it was just a whole section of titles that were mixed up. So I just searched around until I found the actual Christmas episode. It's mistakenly titled Prince Duckula.
I see.
So, folks, if you want to watch this on the Internet Archive, don't look up A Christmas Quacker, look up Prince Duckula.
You've got these websites that track every single date of every single detail of every single TV show ever. And then you've got another website that mislabels everything. And so, where's the pedantry when we need it? We need that pedantry across the board.
It looks like it was uploaded from sort of a tape library like you had, because it looks like it had a bumper at the end of it that was some home video production.
Yeah, advertising something else.
Yeah.
When I was little, I do remember as well, I was a bit confused about before I knew it was Danger Mouse. I do remember sort of thinking it was part of either Disney or Looney Tunes, because I was like, there's ducks everywhere. There's like,
oh yeah,
you've got Donald Duck, you've got Daffy Duck, then there's like Darkwing Duck again a bit later. And I was like, ducks just seem to be everywhere. So it's probably connected to one of those things. And it wasn't until I was a bit older and I'd realized, no, actually, it's a whole British duck thing. I don't know why ducks are so popular in kids' cartoons. It seems to be
I don't know.
A big duck fan base out there amongst kids. So kids just love ducks, obviously. I think that's what it is.
I guess so. But he definitely does look like he could be a Disney duck. Like he could be a DuckTales villain and he'd fit right in.
Exactly. And I think that's why I was a bit confused when I was a kid, thinking it was part of the Disney thing for quite a long time before I clocked the Danger Mouse connection and then put that together. And I was a bit older to go, wait, no, this is a British thing completely.
Okay. Yeah. That makes sense now that you say it that way. I had the advantage of having seen Danger Mouse before this, so I knew right where he was from. But let's sink our teeth into this one. We open with the usual lovely opening narration by Barry Clayton, whom I don't really know outside of this.
No, I didn't know anything outside of this at all. It seems like this was probably his most prominent thing.
Yeah, it looked like on his resume, it looked like he also narrated a series of children's favorites videos. But I really like the serious horror host tone that he bookends every episode with.
Here, as you can tell by the weather, it is Christmas once again. A time of joy and happiness, of giving and receiving. A time of goodwill to all men.
Yeah, it feels like some sort of 80s anthology horror kind of voice, something you get the tales of the unexpected or something creepy and sinister, but it's just about a duck, a vegetarian vampire duck.
Yeah, and that's what makes this whole show funnier to me. They take it so seriously and it's not supposed to be, and I love that. And he sounds almost disgusted at the fact that it's Christmas time.
Yeah, he doesn't want Christmas. I think he says Halloween is his favorite. He wants it to be Halloween instead, and it's the snow.
Oh, that was Igor. I'm still talking about the narrator.
Oh, yes, it was the narrator. Yeah, that was talking. Yeah. I think he was just sounded a bit what's the word, put out by the fact that it was a festive, cheerful, joyful time of the year rather than.
And then on the snow-covered rooftops of Castle Duckula, we find Santa Claus.
Oh, dear. Well, the sooner this bit of my round's over, the better. I don't care for this place.
Along with a single reindeer with a big red nose.
Yep, I wonder who that could be.
It just took the one, though.
Yeah. Just maybe the others have sort of didn't want to come to Transylvania.
I guess not. Because Santa just wants to get this particular stop over as quickly as possible, he says. He doesn't care for this place. We'll check in on him later. But for now, we head inside the castle to find the Count himself, dressed in his own Santa suit and beard, and very excited that it's Christmas.
Boy, oh boy, I just love Christmas. All that giving and receiving. I love it, especially the receiving bit.
Yeah, of course. I knew Count Duckula would love Christmas. His whole vibe is excitement and celebration and having fun kind of thing compared to, some of the other characters in the show. So him enjoying Christmas was like right along the line for his character.
Oh, absolutely. He's an entertainer at heart.
Yeah.
But as you mentioned, the voice of Count Duckula is David Jason, who was also the voice of Danger Mouse.
Yeah.
Do you know him from anything else?
Yeah, well, he is the main actor in Only Fools and Horses.
Okay.
So he plays Delboy. Do you know Only Fools and Horses?
I've heard of it.
So it's probably, if you ask like any British person, especially over a certain age, it is the number one British sitcom. Like whenever they do votes on British sitcoms, Only Fools and Horses is always either number one or in the top few. It ran in the mid 80s through to the late 90s, early 2000s. And David Jason plays Delboy, who's a bit of a wheeler dealer, sort of from London, from Peckham, and he kind of trades and sells things on a market stall with his brother, his dopey brother, and it's him getting into all sorts of scrapes and problems and issues, and trying to become rich, basically trying to make it rich. And there have been some great Christmas specials of that as well. They put out some absolutely fantastic Christmas specials, so a couple of which are actually Christmassy, and then quite a few which are not really Christmassy, but just released on Christmas Day over various years.
All right.
But I watched a lot of that again. With my dad was a big fan of that show, so as another show that we watched a lot growing up. It was always on reruns on TV in the UK.
Okay, I'll have to check that out. But I recognized two things in his filmography. He was the voice of the BFG in the animated movie from 1989.
Yes, he was. Yeah, another great bit of animation from the 80s there.
Oh yeah, that came over on the Disney Channel. And then the second one unlocked a memory for me from my early childhood. There was this stop motion animated series based on The Wind in the Willows.
Yes, yeah. I remember watching that as a kid.
Yeah, and David Jason was the voice of Toad in that. That's from 1984, but I remember liking that show as a very young kid.
Yeah. I remember watching that. I think that was quite acclaimed here in the UK. Like it was, I know people as adults that remember watching as a kid and being quite special to them.
Okay, yeah.
That Wind in the Willows. And David Jason's a national treasure here. He's knighted. He's a Sir David Jason.
Okay.
He's another big show he did was called A Touch of Frost, where he plays a detective which is based on this series of novels. They're called the Frost novels. And I've read quite a few of the novels and I've watched quite a few of the shows. It's like a crime detective show, like something like Poirot or something like that.
Okay.
And they're all really good. And he did that for years and years and years as well. He's a proper icon over here, David Jason. Most British people, especially I'd say over the age of maybe 25, 30, would definitely know who David Jason is.
Oh, all right. Okay. But interestingly, Count Duckula's not the only one in the castle dressed up as Santa this Christmas Eve. His begrudgingly loyal butler Igor is also in a Santa suit and not happy about it. He's the one who says he'd rather it be Halloween.
Christmas? Bah! Jollity? Bah! The festive season? Bah! Give me Halloween any day.
Yeah, that's fitting for Igor, I suppose, as a character and for the whole, premise of the series. Halloween is much more important in Transylvania, I'm sure, than Christmas.
Very true. Igor is voiced by Jack May, whom I think was also the voice of the actual Santa in this.
Yeah, I think some people did quite a few people in the series do double voice duties.
Okay.
I didn't know much of his other stuff, really. I had a look through. The only thing I think I've definitely seen him in was that I looked and he was in Hitchhiker's Guide to the Galaxy, the TV series.
Yeah, that's the one that I definitely saw him in. He played Garkbit, the head waiter at the restaurant at the end of the universe.
Yeah, and I love that show. Absolutely love that show. I watched it when I was at university. I watched it because I read the books and then was like, I need to watch the show. And I listened to the radio. There's like a radio broadcast version.
Mm-hmm.
And I watched the kind of disappointing film as well. So it was, I'm a big fan of all of that series.
Yeah, that's a good one. I discovered it about the same time, around the same age in my early 20s. So it says, IMDb says Jack May's best known from the Sean Connery movie, The Man Who Would Be King. But one thing that stood out to me, Jack May is the original English language voice of Muzzy. Tell me you know what Muzzy is.
I don't think I know what Muzzy is, though.
Okay.
It sounds intriguing.
So Muzzy was this series of what I understood to be like to learn a second language.
Oh, okay. Yeah.
So it was a series of videotapes where you would learn, like they had it in French and Spanish and German and Italian.
Yeah.
But here I'm finding out that it started out as a series to teach English as a second language.
I see.
And then Jack May was the original voice of Muzzy. But I remember they had this commercial for it that's permanently burned into my brain. It was one of those call now to order video series.
Yeah.
To teach your kids a foreign language.
I don't think we had that here. I don't unless maybe it just passed me by.
Okay, it is a British thing. It's a BBC production.
Yeah, I think I was just not interested in learning another language. So.
Yeah, I just remember that infomercial for it, and like this big green furry alien named Muzzy and this very deep voice. The one that they demoed was French, so it was just like bonjour. Not dissimilar to Igor's voice. So yeah,
no, maybe that's his style. Yeah, monstrous.
He'd be perfect for that character.
Monstrous deep voices. That's his style.
I'm not sure yet why Igor is also dressed as Santa, because we cut back to the real Santa. I think he's supposed to be the real Santa. His nose looks like a bird's beak. I don't know. I don't recall if there are any actual humans in the show. It might just be mostly birds.
Yeah, weird creatures. Maybe it's a bird world is what we're meant to believe. Some sort of strange alternate world, as I think we'll go with.
I'm down with that. But now we also learn why Santa wasn't looking forward to this stop, not because it gives him the creeps, but because the entire castle's chimney system is this giant maze that looks like it makes no sense, and he's lost in it.
Yeah. Yeah, I don't quite understand why this is. It's just an old castle. You think would be quite straightforward with its chimneys. You've got. I've been to lots of I love an old castle. Absolutely love an old castle. And most old castles, there's a huge chimney things and just massive spouts going up all the way around. I don't know what built this castle, but it's absolutely freaky.
Yeah, it looks like a giant maze. It's very weird. And if the Count and Igor weren't enough, we have another group climbing up the castle's outer wall. It's the Crow Brothers, a family of 4 crows, legally a murder of crows. Each dressed as Santa and looking to break into and burgle the castle on Christmas.
Yeah, that's usually their style in the show, is to try and get in and steal stuff. That's kind of, whenever they're in the show, they are the burglars trying to break into the castle, climbing up the wall, and then usually, spoiler alert, failing. And I like the sort of East End gangster. I know they seem like they should be in like a Guy Ritchie film or something. The voices of, it's like Tom Hardy, East End, London, sort of, the way they're talking to each other made me chuckle quite a bit.
Don't it give you a sort of warm, rosy glow?
Don't what? Give you a sort of warm, rosy glow?
Well, Chief, spreading a little happiness. Delivering presents to those...
Delivering presents? Did you say delivering?
Yes, Chief. Bringing a little joy into
You stupid great nana. We're not delivering. We're collecting.
The less bright of the brothers says, because he's confused, thinks they're delivering presents.
Yeah.
But they're not. They're collecting. The Santa suits are so they don't look suspicious. Oh, of course. Just 4 Santas climbing up my wall.
Just 4 Santa Crows climbing through the window.
Yeah, it's the one time a year where that sentence makes sense. So that's all happening, but wait, there's more. Here comes another Santa flying in on a blimp. It is Count Duckula's nemesis, Dr. Von Goosewing.
Great name for a character, Dr. Von Goosewink.
Oh, yeah. Who's got his own present to deliver, which he says is the last one the Count will ever get.
Von Goosewink, this time you have done it, you crafty old vampire hunter, you. Just you wait till the foul fiend gets his Christmas present from me.
Yeah, so Goosewing is he's like Van Helsing of this world, isn't he? He's the vampire hunter, vampire killer. But again, throughout most of the series, spoiler alert, is not very good at his job of vampire killing.
Very inept, but...
And yeah, as you said, flying a giant blimp. And I think there's like a sled attachment on the bottom of this one for a Christmassy. Again, I don't know, trying to make himself look like Santa Claus in his giant blimp. I don't know why he's added a sled attachment to the bottom of it to try and fool someone. I don't quite know who.
I don't know, because his initials are on the side of the blimp. There's a giant VG. It actually looks like the Danger Mouse logo, but it's Von Goosewing.
Well, you got to advertise as well. You got to promote yourself.
There you go. Von Goosewing is voiced by Jimmy Hibbert, who voiced one of Danger Mouse's villains, Dr. Augustus P. Crumhorn III, like the mad scientist character in that show.
Yeah, he does loads of voices. I was looking through the list and there was loads of stuff that I've definitely, I think he was in the BFG as well.
Yeah.
He did Sooty and Sweep, the puppets sort of characters. He did Dennis the Menace as well, the UK Dennis the Menace, which I loved as a kid.
Okay. I haven't actually watched that. I know it exists.
Yeah, which again, there's a difference between the American Dennis the Menace and the UK Dennis the Menace.
That's such a weird coincidence because I feel like they were both created within a week of each other. Had no idea that the other existed. It's just...
Yeah, I think I listened to something about that. That's such a weird little, sort of universal connection thing. Like two people on separate sides of the world just went Dennis the Menace and came up with a character and world and story. It's like zapped from another dimension or something.
Right. So Von Goosewing walks past Rudolph, who's still waiting on the roof, calls him a funny-looking horse.
I think he was making a snowman in the background. I think Rudolph
Yeah.
Which I quite like. He's a bit bored waiting. Obviously, Santa's been stuck in the chimney for a while, maybe.
Sure, yeah. This is a long time for Santa to be down that chimney, but I guess Rudolph's used to this at this point. I guess.
True, yeah.
I wonder if Santa dropped off the other reindeer because at one point he says this is his last stop.
Yeah.
He says something to the effect of go around the world in one night and then spend the rest of it lost in Castle Duckula.
Exactly. And he saves us till last because of the difficulty. I think that's what it is. And the other reindeer head off home to have a nap while Santa gets stuck. And Rudolph dukes it out because he's, the leader.
Sure. Yeah. I only need one. Maybe they take turns every year, and this is Rudolph's year.
Yeah.
And then we have one last Santa to meet. Of course, it is the unstoppable force that is the Count's nanny.
He'll be coming down the chimney to give presents to everyone who's been good all year, just like he always does.
Yeah, my favorite character, I think, in this show.
I love Nanny. Nanny is voiced by Brian Truman, who is another Cosgrove Hall regular voice and writer. He wrote for both the original and the newer Danger Mouse series. They brought Danger Mouse back.
They did, yeah. I know. I haven't watched any of the new one actually. I don't think it lasted for very long, but I heard good things about it. I definitely heard it was meant to be quite true to the original.
Yeah, I think it was only 2 seasons, but stretching across 4 years, so that's actually pretty good for a reboot like that.
Yeah.
He also wrote some of the British scenes on Fraggle Rock.
Oh, really? Oh, I didn't know that.
Yeah, the scenes with Sprocket in the lighthouse.
Yeah. I used to love Fraggle Rock. That's one of my favorite shows.
Oh, yeah, same. Have you watched the new one?
No, I haven't yet. No, is it good?
It's very good, yeah.
It's on my very, very long watch list.
Okay, check it out. Yeah, it holds up well. They do a great job with it. But Brian Truman died very, very recently in September 2024. He was 92.
Yeah, long life.
Yeah. So Nanny, also dressed as Santa as she sings Jingle Bells through the echoey castle halls. And so is her ducky boos down some other hall, as well as Igor mumbling bah humbug through a third hall, and then they all bump into each other at the intersection.
Yeah, a clash of Santas in the corridor.
Yes. And that's really the visual I remembered from this episode before I watched it again.
Yeah, they're all dressed as Santa. Yeah, I remembered that as well.
I thought that was going to be a bigger deal than it is, but...
Yeah, Well, something else just takes over the episode shortly. So.
Yeah. But it turns out all three of them thought it was their turn to play Santa for each other this year. But the Count says, doesn't matter now because the real Santa should be there any minute now. So they take off their costumes. Meanwhile, the Crow brothers are about to break in through a shut window when the real Santa opens that window, unknowingly sending them falling down the side of the castle wall.
Yeah, and back down again. Yeah, that's their inept.
Yeah, that's a regular bit from them. There's multiple episodes where they try and do that, and this happens.
You'd think they'd give up at some point, but, they're persistent, those crows.
They're not quitters.
No, the Crow brothers are not quitters.
At any rate, the Count wants to exchange presents now, and so Igor gives him a pair of dentures with fangs, and Duckula's no longer thrilled.
Igor, is this some kind of joke?
Far from it, my lord. And I hope you'll accept these teeth in the spirit with which they're given.
But Igor, you know how I feel about teeth.
Indeed I do, my lord. But as it is Christmas time, I thought you might make an exception for once.
Yeah, so I like, again, another running joke of Igor is that he wants Count Duckula to be evil and sinister and like the old, previous counts that used to live in the castle and be, sucking blood and doing horrible things. And so he keeps trying to make him evil, in this case, buying him some actual real fangs. But again, it's a bit of a short-sighted attempt because Duckula doesn't see it in that way.
No, yeah. So the big joke of the whole series is that when they resurrected Count Duckula this time, they accidentally replaced the ingredient of blood with a bottle of tomato ketchup. And so now this Count Duckula is vegetarian.
Yeah. It's such a, just a tiny, stupid little twist on something that makes it so good, this series.
Yeah, it makes the whole series, but... So Duckula reluctantly tries them on, and Igor notes they're a perfect fit. But they don't sound like a perfect fit because the Count's now talking with his mouth full.
Yeah, a bit more like, Daffy Duck style, I think, again.
Yeah, not bad. But now it's his turn to give out gifts. He gives one to Igor and calls for Nanny, who bursts through the wall like she does.
Yeah, I like Nanny crashing through the wall as well. Just like she's so giant force of nature that just comes arriving in to see her ducky poos again.
Just waiting for the entire castle to come crashing down at this point. Nanny actually scolds him for talking with his mouth full, saying, I want to smack your legs. And Duckula apologizes to Igor as he spits out his teeth, but as he explains, he values his legs. Fair position.
I like how Nanny as well, yeah, she's a bit like a stereotype of like an old British nanny as well, I think. There's sort of a bit of an old stereotype about, especially maybe richer households, of some quite domineering nanny figure that kind of, disciplinary, but also quite loving at the same time. Like, it doubles up, and she definitely has that attitude about her. But a lot more fearsome, I think, as well.
Yeah, but of course, for this particular show, they had to make her sort of monstrous. So she's crashing around in every wall. Doesn't have a gentle touch.
No.
So Nanny opens her present and is rather disappointed to find it's a book. But she's already got a book.
Yeah, that's the bit that made me laugh, I think, the most for some reason. I've already got a book. And it just made me laugh. So I was thinking about my friends in my life who I've bought books before, and that's pretty much their attitude to it sometimes. Like, I've already read one book. I need more books for.
You're giving me work?
Yeah, exactly. This is a challenge. I know I'm a teacher. They're like, you just give me more stuff to do.
It's a really good book, though. Oh, well. But it turns out this book is called
The Very Big Tremendous Terrence Adventure Book.
The Very Big Tremendous Terrence Adventure Book? Boy, Nanny, are you ever lucky?
Yeah, some sort of space adventure comic book, it seems like.
Yeah, it's the Count's favorite comic book, and he excitedly shows her all the amazing stories in there, and it quickly becomes obvious that he bought this for himself, gave it to Nanny to check off that box on his Christmas list. And I guess you'll be too busy cooking Christmas dinner to read this right now, so why don't you let me read it for the time being? That's not cool, Duck.
It's not the festive spirit, no. He's moved away from the Santa Claus vibe that he was trying to bring.
Nice try. So the next 2 minutes or so is Count Duckula reading this comic aloud to himself.
Yeah, I feel like I don't know why. Is there some sort of like budgetary issue with this? Because then we sort of have this still comic book on screen for big chunks of the time of the episode with just his voiceover.
And it actually looks like they drew out an actual page of comics because the camera looks shaky.
Yeah, it's like it's moving over the actual comic book, which is quite cool. But also it does make me think, are they trying to, save 5 minutes of animation time and money
There's
there?
a lot of it. It takes up a big chunk of time coming up.
Yeah.
But at least he picked a Christmas story to read. And oh no, the Dribulons have captured Santa Claus.
Yeah, Dribulons from the planet Blurg, I believe, is which I quite liked.
Not that we even get to that part. It's just tremendous Terrence learning about this from a couple of other aliens whose ship he boarded.
Yeah.
Because while he's reading that, we see the Crow brothers out the window about to break in, but then Nanny enters the room with a Christmas pudding. Trips over a step or an exposed floorboard or something
like that, yeah,
but it sends the pudding bouncing off Duckula's head across the floor and crashing through the window.
Yeah, proper cannonball pudding,
sending the Crow brothers falling again. So do you think that was an older pudding that she made and it was just left over from last year, or is she just a bad cook?
It very easily could have been, probably could have been both, I suppose. Again, I think there's sometimes a bit of a British joke or thing about Christmas puddings being overcooked and becoming just, a rock, basically. That you have to sort of break your teeth on potentially. But with Nanny, either's possible. Yeah.
Yeah. Like over here, that sounds like it would be a fruitcake joke.
Yeah.
Or hard as a rock. More importantly, that blow to the head appears to have knocked Count Duckula into some sort of comatose state. And Nanny, ever clueless, asks Igor, "What have you done to my ducky boos?"
Yeah, she's a bit, not paying attention as well. She doesn't realize she did it herself, this attack on poor Ducky Boos.
No, Igor tries to say, "No, I didn't do anything. It was your pudding." But he hasn't even had a mouthful yet, Nanny argues. And Igor wryly replies if he had, he'd be in worse condition. Then the two ask the Count if he's all right, and we see this swirling animation on the screen that indicates we're about to be transported into Count Duckula's mind to see what's going on in there.
My lord, wake up!
Count Duckula will be back after these messages.
To find a secret treasure. Where'd you get this, Shorty?
Free inside my pack of shreddies.
Smart kid, but if you're that clever, how do you win all these Duckula prizes?
All you gotta do is scratch.
It's easy.
No, scratch the panels, follow the clues, and enter the competition.
But if you scratch the wrong panel...
There's four to collect!
Bonjour, je suis le grand musicien.
Je suis la jeune fille.
Yes, that's French they're speaking. And no, these children aren't French. They're American. And they've acquired their amazing new language skills from Muzzy, the remarkable new video language program for children developed by the British Broadcasting Corporation. With this unique BBC language course, children learn a second language with incredible ease. 4 delightful videos quickly become their favorite TV show and teaches children the same way they learned English. Learning another language becomes fun. You'll be amazed when your children begin speaking and understanding their new language from the very first day through this unique method. The entire course, 4 videos, 2 audio cassettes, the activity book, and the Parent's Guide and Answer book is available in French, Spanish, Italian, or German.
To order, use your credit card and call this number. We'll ship and charge you $28.08 a month for 6 months. Your satisfaction is guaranteed. Call 1-800-424-0700.
It's Christmas!
Hello, my name is Adam and I'm the host of Merry Britsmas, a podcast about festive things from a British perspective. It's mostly me rambling about TV specials and episodes from the UK, such as The Royal Family and Doctor Who. I also like to talk about Christmas songs and explore British covers, as well as deep diving some classic British Christmas music. To add a false sense of intelligence, I'll also try to educate you on British traditions such as the Christmas number 1 or boxes of chocolates. If you are British and want to get nostalgic, or aren't British and want to find out a little more about holidays on our shores, then please check out Merry Britsmas.
And happy blooming Christmas to you and all.
You're watching Nickelodeon. And now back to Count Duckula.
And not a huge surprise, he's dreaming that he's inside the Tremendous Terrence comic.
Yeah, it's that sort of, I quite like it. It's like, a bit like he's daydreaming and kind of lost in the world of his comic book, which, as a kid, that's definitely what I did quite a lot.
Oh, yeah, me too.
But for him, obviously, it's maybe the result of some sort of pudding-based concussion as well, which could be.
Yeah, I think that's exactly what's going on. But he's daydreaming that he's Terrence's sidekick, Daring Duckula.
Wake up, Daring Duckula.
What happened?
The Dribulon Puddingoid got through our force shield. Gave you quite a nasty bump on the head.
With being attacked by the Puddingoids.
By the Puddingoids. Now, there is some animation in these comic book sequences. Like, we see the word bubbles on the screen as they're talking, and they fill in as they say them.
Yeah, there's a little bit more in the second bit here, I think, that's a bit more fancy and a bit smoother and a bit more sophisticated than the first bit. Maybe because it's his daydreaming now we've got as well.
Could be, yeah.
Interactivity.
Yeah, and he's still narrating his own dream, which is neat.
Yeah.
So Daring Duckula and Tremendous Terrence are on a mission to save Santa from the Dribulons, and then they get attacked by these Puddingoids.
Just a minute. What's that?
What's that, DD?
I said, what's that?
It looks to me like your finger.
Yes, it is my finger, but what's that my finger's pointing at?
Aha, I see what you mean. Oh, it looks like
another Puddingoid attack.
It's all very silly, but I'm very much enjoying a Christmas-themed space adventure. We need more of those.
Yeah, we've gone from a Christmas-themed Halloween vampire adventure to a Christmas-themed space adventure now. Flitting between two very different genres.
Yes. So Daring Duckula crash lands on planet Blurg, and he and Tremendous Terrence are immediately caught in a trap by the Dribulons and taken to the Igulon.
I'd almost feel like maybe some, things from the real world are playing on Duckula's mind here.
Yeah, because this fearsome purple space beast has a head that looks remarkably like Igor's.
Welcome to my humble abode. And what excellent timing. You have arrived just in time for dinner.
Hey, this guy doesn't sound so bad.
I feel like there's some kind of study that people who are in long-term comas, pick things that are happening around them, even though they're not awake and alert.
It's a little bit like Wizard of Ozzy as well, isn't it? And you were there, and you were there, and you were there. And he's, even got the Christmas story. It's the Christmas pudding attack. Like he was attacked with the Christmas pudding. It's all flirting around his head. Yeah,
good
Count
point.
Duckula is taking it all in.
Yeah, but the Igulon does the classic trick. You're just in time for dinner.
Yeah, and then we get some very for a kid's cartoon. I suppose I just didn't notice it as a kid, but now we're getting cannibalism in a kid's cartoon, which as an adult watching it shocked me a little bit.
Yeah. Well, I mean, he is an alien, so he could just be.
True. Yeah. It's like eating an animal.
Right. He's a refined beast with refined taste, so he gives us a rundown of the courses, and he says,
I thought I would start with the little supreme de tremendous Terrence Farci aux légumes de saison, followed by a delicious Santa Claus roti à la bordelaise.
And I think some duck l'orange as well.
Duck l'orange, yeah. It actually sounds kind of good.
Well, that's the thing. I suppose duck l'orange is... So in this world, do people eat ducks? Because duck l'orange is a real dish, a real recipe.
Hey, yeah.
But obviously the people are ducks. And so is there a recipe out there for the talking ducks? I'm wrapping myself up around in this here. This going far too deep into Count Duckula lore, but...
Well... I mean, I've seen Donald Duck and his family eating a Christmas turkey, so...
Exactly, precisely, yeah. So are there some ducks that are just eat ducks to eat, and then there are ducks that are talking, walking, vampire ducks, and so on.
Survival of the fittest.
Yeah.
But no, Daring Duckula insists, you don't want to eat me. I'm all skin and bones. And the Igulon concurs, maybe I don't want to eat you right this moment. Perhaps a little entertainment before I dine. And now he's speaking Daring Duckula's language. He immediately takes out a banjo from out of nowhere and starts playing the Camptown Races terribly.
On the Camptown Races, sing this song, doo-dah, doo-dah.
Yeah, this is how you torture someone.
It's so bad.
I mean, that song already slightly great. So, chuck in the banjo style here of the alien banjo.
Right.
Then it's going to take things to another level. I would have maybe liked a Christmas song here. I don't know, some sort of grating Christmas song. Maybe.
That could have been, see, he should have stuck with something more festive.
There could have been, some very bad Christmas songs out there. Playing some Christmas shoes or something. That might have worked.
It's a little before Christmas shoes time.
Yeah.
But that's Duckula's whole thing. He wants to be an entertainer so badly, but he's not good at it.
No, he's got the dreams, but not the talent.
No. But the entertainment the Igulon had in mind was for daring Duckula and Santa Claus to do battle against the Nanox.
So who could this be?
Well, now that I know where the Igulon got his name from, it was a lot quicker for me to pick up who the Nanox was turning out to be.
Yep.
And in she stomps, even larger than the already larger-than-life nanny.
Holy macaroni, it's horrible.
Now that's no way to talk about people, is it?
Nanox, kill.
Oh, all right then.
Yeah, there's an exaggeration of, not much exaggeration to be honest, with the size of Nanny in real life, but even bigger. Yeah, some more gigantic monster here, Nanox. Poor Nanox.
She's got spotty green skin and fangs. Grabs Terrence and Duckula, and out we fade from that dream as the real Count Duckula we know and love snaps out of it.
All he needed was a hug from his nan. That's all.
That's right.
Saves the day, a big hug / death grip.
Yeah. But it looks like he somehow has been out of the blackout for a while because he's reading this comic the whole time.
Yeah, maybe some sort of concussion dazed state where he's sort of taking in something, like watching a film or reading a comic book and still turning it into a daydream where you are part of it. There's some real brain damage been done here to Count Duckula, I think, that maybe he should be investigated by a doctor. I can't try to think about doctor pun, but a doctor. That's what he needs.
A doctor, yeah. Yeah. No, he got lost in the story and turned it into self-inserted fan fiction. This reminded me of a movie. Have you ever heard of the movie Sidekicks with Chuck Norris and Jonathan Brandis, where he's daydreaming about being Chuck Norris's best friend?
Yeah. As we all do.
Dumb. Oh, yeah. But it takes a minute for Duckula to realize he was daydreaming and to sort that from reality, but he eventually gets there. By the way, this whole comic bit, this whole daydream bit was about 7 or 8 minutes from this 22-minute cartoon.
Yeah, it takes them a massive... Oh, again, that was the one thing that really surprised me, thinking, as you thought, like, it's the multiple Santa stories and they're all coming together and that encounter. And here we have this daydream, concussion, space adventure, fantasy odyssey that is taking up a good third of the time frame.
Yeah, it's like the whole middle third of this. I was surprised.
Yeah, I do wonder, again, if maybe they just sort of like couldn't make the plot stretch out enough for the Santa Clauses. They were like, let's chuck in something else. What have we got? We got the space adventure comic book. Let's make that whole thing. Let's go, go.
Let's do it. But I guess the show was always all over the place. That's just how it was written.
Yeah. It's a zany show. Again, Danger Mouse was quite similar. It's zaniness and oddity are part and parcel of the fun and the enjoyment of those shows.
Yeah. So let's check back in on the real Santa inside the chimney maze, and he accidentally gets knocked down off an edge by Santa von Goosewing, who backs up into him and ends up falling down as well, and then they both emerge from the fireplace.
Yep, double Santa arriving. That's exciting for Duckula, I'm sure. Two Santas.
He's very excited about it, but then Igor immediately recognizes von Goosewing.
Santa Claus is Santa Claus!
And von Goosewing too, by the look of things.
Goosewing, what are you doing here?
Well, it's Christmas!
Yeah, surprisingly, his disguise was not very good.
No.
Just like on his giant blimp name, he's not the best at hiding who he is.
Right. And Duckula asks him what he's doing there, and he says, well, 'tis the season of goodwill for all men, and even you, Count Duckula. And Santa's very happy to hear that from von Goosewing. It's what Christmas is all about.
Yeah, Santa doesn't seem to realize that he's, maybe he should be on the naughty list, this Count von Goosewing.
Yeah. So Von Goosewing gives the Count a present, and Santa, of course, has presents for everyone, which kind of throws Von Goosewing for a loop because he really wants the Count to open his present first. Really? While you're still there, you should leave.
Yeah. He's not thinking that. He wants to see it. He wants to see his ultimate plan come to fruition.
Yeah, not a bright idea, but
no.
Santa gives Igor a present first. It's a very axe-shaped wrapped gift.
Yeah, I did like that. It was just an axe shape, which again says everything he needs to know about Igor. That's what he wants for Christmas, isn't it?
Oh yeah, no, it's perfect for Igor. Followed by Nanny, and then the Count himself, and his gift is the really big, tremendous Terrence Adventure book.
Wow, who knew he might like that?
Yeah.
One for Nanny, one for him.
Right, Count's a little disappointed, and Santa's surprised, like, I thought you were the biggest, tremendous Terrence fan. But Duckula doesn't even get to explain it. They don't even have that awkward moment because Von Goosewing has lost his patience at this point. He opens his gift to reveal, look, crackers!
Yeah, Christmas crackers.
And as a kid watching this in America, I did not understand what they were.
No. Again, lots of talking to Americans. Christmas crackers just don't exist over there. They're just part and parcel of Christmas here. You can't have Christmas without Christmas crackers.
No,
every Christmas I've ever had.
I gotta try and find some over here this Christmas, but it's hard. Like, you can't bring them on a plane for obvious reasons.
No, they're becoming more and more common over there. I've heard from a few American people that they've found them in various places. But again, if you do a bit of digging around or some stores, department stores,
they must have some. I might need to take a trip over to like Epcot where they have that whole UK section, and maybe they'll have Christmas crackers over there.
Oh yeah, probably, yeah. And they're like the most meaningless bit of tat, but the most fun because of that. Like the nature of them being a bit rubbish makes it good. You know, you get a rubbish joke, a rubbish paper hat, a rubbish toy, the hat rips straight away, or you forget you're wearing it and you end up wearing a rubbish paper hat for like 6 hours straight on Christmas Day. They're rubbish, but they're great. Sometimes they don't actually bang when you snap them. You know, there's something about the naff. There's a word in British called naff. Do you know what naff means?
I've heard naff.
It's like rubbish, but again, it's quite an affectionate term, I'd say. Oh, it's a bit naff.
Yeah.
And that's crackers and naff. But I love them, and we all love them here.
Yeah, we got to get on the cracker train, my fellow Americans.
Yeah, there's money to be made there as well. You know,
really?
The markup must be pretty good because they must be quite cheaply made, and they're not super cheap. So,
oh sure,
you should start your own cracker business. That's what you should do.
There we go. All right. Quitting the podcast. No, I can do both. But so the Count and Nanny are getting ready to pull one of these crackers, and Von Goosewing covers his ears in anticipation. He winces as he says, "Goodbye, Count Duckula." And again, why are you still there?
And revealing your plan quite quickly as well. Yeah. Next to Santa. Santa's not even...
Next to Santa. If you made these explosives, you should probably not stick around and watch them go off 10 feet from you.
He just needs to see the destruction. He's a glutton for destruction and punishment.
No, yeah, you got to see a body. But they can't pull it open. Count Duckula and Nanny can't quite get the cracker open. And here I'm waiting for Nanny to pull a lot harder than the Count.
There's a song playing during this bit as well, which is In Dulce Jubilo is the name of the song. I don't know if you recognized it.
I wasn't even paying attention to the music.
So there's like a back song, and it's an old British carol called In Dulce Jubilo.
One good pull and you is no more. Come on, Nanny, pull.
I am pulling.
Well, pull harder, Nanny.
I am.
Over here, it was released as a single by Mike Oldfield.
I know Mike Oldfield, yeah.
Yeah, did Tubular Bells, The Exorcist.
Right.
Theme. And he released kind of like a Christmas album, and on it was his version using that sort of, bell sound of In Dulce Jubilo. It was quite a big hit over here, and it was on Christmas. Now that's what I call Christmas and British Christmas stuff.
Yeah.
And so as soon as I heard that, my brain went British Christmas song and sort of snapped into it. Very nice song to check out if you don't know it, In Dulce Jubilo by Mike Oldfield.
In Dulce Jubilo.
Quite whimsical, I suppose, and old-fashioned, but quite a nice song.
Yeah, well, if I'm listening to Tubular Bells, I can definitely see how that would be whimsical. Oh, I got to check that out. But no, they can't seem to get this cracker open. So Von Goosewing makes the classic villain mistake of getting too impatient and stepping in and saying, "Give it to me, you pull it like this," and kaboom.
You must be pulling it like this.
Yeah, giant explosive cracker. That's the Christmas Day prank.
Yeah, and only Von Goosewing gets blasted out the window.
Out the window and into the Crow Brothers again.
Yeah, taking them out for a third time.
Yeah, you think they'd have given up on the second time, but no, they're persistent.
Yeah. But thanks to cartoon logic, everyone else who was standing right next to him is just fine.
Yeah. It's only Goosewink.
Duckula comments, that was some cracker. So Santa at this point tells everyone he'd better be going.
Happy Christmas, Santa, and thanks.
Happy Christmas!
Happy Christmas!
Humbug.
Yeah, gotta have the old Scrooge bar humbug as well from Igor.
But of note, this whole time, Igor's got this cute little elf hat on his head.
Yeah, I think he secretly likes it. I think he secretly likes Christmas. I mean, he wanted the axe, and he's dressed up as Santa right at the start. So I think he acts all Halloweeny, but I think he secretly likes this Christmas.
Yeah, he talks a mean bah humbug game, but he is dressed the most festive out of the three of them.
Exactly,
and he's a good sport. And that's pretty much the episode. We see Santa and his one reindeer fly off into the gloomy, snowy sunrise as our narrator bids us farewell as he wishes us in a more sinister than usual tone, even for Count Duckula.
Have yourselves a very Merry Christmas out there, whatever you are.
I like the whatever you are. Yeah.
That's my favorite.
There's a dark note to that.
And that's it. This was a rather quick one with that comic bit in the middle. It flew by.
Yeah, it's a brisk 20 minutes. Yeah, I mean, a lot of these sort of British kids shows are quite quick. I've just recently watched a newish British Christmas show called Scream Street for my podcast. It's quite recent. It's on BBC, and they had a Christmas episode, and that's, again, really quick 20-minute episodes, and it was over. It's sort of in a bit of a flash. But I suppose for kids, attention, paying attention for anything more than 20 minutes sometimes can be a challenge.
Yeah, that's a big ask, but... Any final thoughts on this episode or on Count Duckula in general?
Well, I just love Count Duckula. It's such a weird, goofy, strange element. It's a duck that's a vampire who's a vegetarian. It's just all these things. And then the goofy characters that come in now, it's so British. I don't know. I feel like it's such a British, weird bit of television for children as well. This is for children. Yeah. A vampire story for children. It's like, well, what can we do to make it suitable? Turn him into a duck, make him vegetarian, give him a weird nanny, put all this stuff in. And you've got this sort of interesting character. And it's a fun Christmas special. I haven't watched this one in absolutely years, probably, since maybe I was young when watched it on, because we did watch these episodes quite a few times when I was a kid. Like we had them on some sort of home video thing.
Right.
And so probably since I was like, I don't know, maybe like 12 or 13 was the last time I watched this. So it was quite nice to watch it and kind of have that blast from the past and go back to being a little kid sort of with that. I might have to go watch some more Count Duckula episodes now, I think.
I definitely want to as well. And again, I was surprised to see how much of the runtime for this Christmas episode was dedicated to that tremendous Terrence story and Duckula's dream sequence of it. And it was a little Christmassy, but I think they kept Santa off screen for all of that story, and maybe they shouldn't have.
Maybe, if he had a bit more Santa in the middle, maybe even Santa making his way around the chimney a few times would have been a bit more fun, potentially. Die Hard style.
Oh, that would have been great. Oh, yeah. I would have loved to see just more misadventures of everyone dressed up as Santa suits and running into each other and just getting confused.
Yeah, around the castle.
That would have been a better story.
Yeah, a bit more festive, potentially.
Yeah. But again, like you, I still had fun revisiting this. I would like to see Count Duckula make a comeback. It looks like the Danger Mouse revival did well.
Yeah, you think maybe it could be on the horizon if Danger Mouse did well. Yeah. It's, again, for today's audience, there's quite a lot out there I'd noticed of there always has been, but again, there's been a bit of a revival recently, like this Scream Street I saw of sort of kids horror crossover things, that's sort of appealing to young kids to see things like, Frankenstein and Dracula and those sort of creatures in a more friendly, kid appropriate environment or atmosphere. So there's a gap there maybe in the market for it to come back and scare/excite a whole generation of new kids.
It's time to consider resurrecting Count Duckula and keep the ketchup. It'll be funny. But thank you, Adam, for joining me for this. Much like Von Goose Wings crackers, this was a blast.
It was an absolute blast to chat all things Duckula again and get my childhood memories come flooding back to me.
Oh, perfect. And if people want to give you the gift of their favorite comic book treasury, hoping you'll read it to them, where can they find you on the internet?
So they can check me out on my podcast, which is Merry Britsmas, and I have lots of accounts on social media, on Instagram, on Facebook, on whatever Twitter/X is calling itself by the time this episode goes out. And also I post quite a lot. There's also a Reddit subreddit called UK Christmas, where I post things in relation to my podcast and British Christmas stuff. So if you like to find out a bit more about British Christmas things like Count Duckula, come and give me a follow, give me a listen. I'm on all good podcast apps, everything from Apple Podcast to Spotify. Check me out.
Yeah, please check out Merry Britsmas. You've talked about a lot of British TV and music and other pop culture that I probably would never have known about. And it's a good time. So thank you.
That's what I aim to do. That's the whole purpose of the podcast, is to get people, either British people feeling nostalgic or foreigners going, what the hell is he talking about? And maybe check it out.
Yeah. And you can find that link in the show notes of this episode. You can find the Advent Calendar House conveniently at adventcalendar.house. Tune in next time when we watch another much less cheerful nanny figure out how to have her Christmas saved. Until then, for Adam from somewhere inside my chimney that defies the laws of physics, this is Mike Westfall reminding you to mind the icy patch, and good night out there, whatever you are.
So child father, beware of the and pray you'll never meet with
Duckula, Count Duckula.
Next time on the Advent Calendar House.
Oh, now, Mama.
Listen, Benton, for 50 years I have been in charge of Christmas. I've jingled your bells and I've roasted your chestnuts. This Christmas, you goons can just rump-a-pum-pum without me.